Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. Have you ever been really disappointed and frustrated when trying to make your eco resin as black as possible? I know a lot of people have because they've emailed me to ask for advice on the best way to make their eco resin black. Well, today I've got a new answer for you. Fresh to the shelves of Elichem Resins, today I can introduce to you Aqua Black. I was so excited to try it and to see just how black it would be. And so today you can see me make a tea light holder, a picture frame and a pot with beautiful shell inlay. If all of that sounds interesting, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Before I began, I made sure my table was covered and I had some gloves on. Because I'm going to be working with black powder, I knew it was going to be messy. I had my weighing scales ready because Aquacast is measured by weight, and the ratio for this one is 100 grams of powder to 40 grams of water. I measured my water into a silicone pot and then I measured the Aquacast into another pot so that I could add it into the water gradually. When I say gradually, that suggests just a little bit at a time, doesn't it? But actually I did it in two parts. I just poured in half, gave it a mix and then poured in the other half, and it was absolutely fine. And you can see once the water mixes in with it how black it's looking already. It does look super black and I was quite excited to see how this would turn out. The pot mould that I'm using today is from Wan Nicole, and I will put a link in the video description for it. The reason I chose this one is because it's got rectangular indentations on the sides, and I thought that would work perfectly with some seashell veneer that I've got. And I really wanted to try cutting the veneer and putting it into those rectangular indentations that are in there, and you'll see that soon. So yeah, that's where the mould is from, and all I'm doing is filling it in just a little bit at a time, giving it a good squeeze around the edges because it's got all those indentations that I was just talking about. I needed to make sure I gave it a good squeeze around that area to make sure they were fully covered and that there were no air pockets trapped in there. Then I added the mould housing to make sure the mould kept perfectly round and didn't go out of shape while it cured. Next I filled the lid in just the same way, making sure I squeezed where the handle is to make sure that was completely filled in without air pockets, and that one was nice and simple. I was glad to have some left over because I have another new mould which I wanted to try, and this is a Stamperia mould, and there are different shaped frames and some little embellishments on there as well. I will leave a link in the video description for that as well. That's from Charmed Cards and Crafts. So I had enough left over to fill all of it up, but it's a very, very detailed mould. So I did a lot of work with my micro brush, making sure that I went through all the nooks and crannies with it to try and, make sure there were no pockets of air or bubbles trapped in there. But like I say, it was detailed, so there were a few places where I didn't quite get there. But this mould is a really good one to show you how well the Aquacast Black picks up the details. And while I'm talking about detail, that brings me to another interesting point with the Aquacast range. If you've got a very detailed mould and you want your solution to be thinner, you can add a little bit more water to make it more fluid, and that way it will get into the detail a lot better. It will lessen its overall strength a little bit by changing the ratio like that, but it's something that you can do if you want to. You can also make it thicker by adding more powder or less water, whichever way around you want to do it. Aquacast Black has a 10 to 15 minute working time, so you don't have to rush, and I did spend quite a long time on this, making sure it was nicely filled. So I'm going to zip through this now and go to the next stage. After an hour, it was time to demold these beauties and see how they had turned out. You will notice that I'm wearing my gloves, which is very important with Aquacast Black. Although at the time of demolding it feels very hard, like it's fully cured, it's not actually fully cured until 12 hours later, and for that amount of time the black pigment will leave marks on your hands or your surfaces wherever it touches because of the really intense black pigment that's in there. And for that same reason, it will leave marks on your moulds as well. But you will see in the next step that it cleans off very easily. So don't worry when you demold your Aquacast Black pieces and find that your moulds are grey. They won't stay grey. Really, it's a small price to pay for getting such an intense black pigment. It's the only way, really. So I'm happy to just wear gloves until I don't need to. And, obviously lots of protection on your work surface. And here's what I was talking about the moulds. There we go, you see. It looks quite mucky, but it comes off easy, so don't worry. So let's have a look at this pot. Wow. It's so dark, it's hard to pick up the details on the camera. Yeah, that's the most intense black I've ever managed to get with Aquacast. I've never got it that black using pigment, so I'm very impressed with this stuff. Let's have a look at the lid. There we go, look, absolutely perfect. Very smooth, very even colour, no patchiness and no air bubbles either. I was very happy about that. So yeah, 10 out of 10 so far. I'm loving it. Let's have a look at the other bits and bobs that I did. Do you see how well it picks up all the detail on that frame? I'm loving this mould. Isn't it a good mould? I love that. Wow. All that detail, and look how smooth and black it is. Very, very nice indeed. And here's the bigger one. There were a few air bubbles in this one that I didn't manage to get out with my micro brush, but still I think it looks really good, and I'm going to be using this one in this video later on. I'm not going to show the making of my picture, but you will see it with a picture in it a little bit later on. But yeah, I love that. And here's another gorgeous one. I don't know what I'm going to use all these for, but I love them. And another. Again, look at all that detail. Wow. That would look really nice with some gilding wax on. And the little ones. Very nice. They might be nice for jewellery. I'm not sure. Another one. And then there's the little embellishments, which I'm not sure what I would use those for, but they're very cute. It's really hard because they're so black. It's quite hard to pick up on the camera. That's how black they are. Very good. Right then, let's get on to washing those moulds so I can show you how easy it is. So here I've just got a bowl of warm water with some washing up liquid in there. It's just fairy washing up liquid, and I'm going to use my normal washing up sponge just to rub the mould, and you'll see how quickly and easily it washes. I've sped up the footage to double speed just so that, you get to see what's happening a little bit quicker, because I don't want you to be sat there for a long time watching me doing the washing up. And so there it is, as good as new, all cleaned up. So no problems there. So it's the next day, and I'm going to add the shell veneer that I was talking about. You can probably see that it's a little bit paler in colour the next day when it was fully cured. But don't worry, because as soon as you seal it, the blackness comes back again. So there's the seashell veneers, and they're from Laura's Art Corner. They're amazing. They're sticky backed and you can cut them. They're not too brittle to cut, but it's actually real seashell on there. I don't know how they do it. At first, when I first received it, I thought it was some kind of printed vinyl, but it's not. It's actual real seashell on there. So I'm just going to measure the size of each of the rectangles on the pot and cut out the rectangles to stick in there, and that's as simple as it is really. Once the rectangles are cut out, all you have to do is peel off the protective backing and apply your shell veneer into the recess in the pot, and I just used an embossing tool to help push it down. So at this stage it was still unsealed and I didn't have gloves on. The thing is, what I should really have done is given it a wipe all over with a baby wipe or something, just to wipe away any loose particles of the pigment, and then I wouldn't have got any on my fingers. I did get some on my fingers during this process, especially from the bottom where it was quite raw and not smooth. Whenever you're pouring Aquacast, the space where you've poured from, the opening of the mould area, that will always be quite rough and raw until you sand it down. And that's the area where you will get most pigment from if you don't protect your hands. So yeah, I did get some on my hands, but I couldn't have taken the paper off the back of these pieces with gloves on. So that was my reason for not having gloves on. And there you can see I'm just using a Q-tip to smooth it down. I continued applying the shell off camera because it took quite a long time, and now it's time to seal it. I'm using Hydroflow Satin Sealer from Elichem Resins, the same place you get your Aquacast from, and that will bring the vivid, intense blackness back again. I poured a generous amount onto a microfiber cloth and covered it very quickly. I have found that it works better that way, because if you did it a little bit at a time, you would end up with it looking a little bit patchy, where the Hydroflow sealer has started to dry and then you've added more. Yeah, it's not good, so it's best to apply it all at once very quickly. I felt like the lid was looking a little bit plain, so I cut 3 pieces of the shell veneer for each side of the handle and just added those as well. You can't really see very well. It was one of those fiddly little jobs where it was hard for you to see what I was doing, but it really did finish it off nicely. So after that was applied, I decided to add some wax to the lid and to the jar. I just like the finish you get with wax. It gives you such a soft sheen, and it really brings the colour out as well. So this was something I did as an extra just to see how it would look, and I was really pleased with the results. The wax that I use is called Clark's Wax for stone and concrete, and I will put a link in the video description. Right, before we go on to the tea light holder, let's show you this in all its finished glory, and I think you'll agree it looks beautiful. The shell veneer works so well against the black and really sets it off. I'm really happy with the results of the Aquacast black. So I still had a little bit left of the sample that Elichem sent for me, and so I wanted to make something else. I decided I would like to see how well it would work next to the white Aquacast. So I poured some black and white together. I'm not showing the mixing or anything like that because you've already seen the mixing, and I'm pouring them into both sides of the mould at the same time. Then I stopped and I turned the mould around and started pouring again, so that I got kind of a, how would you say, I don't know, just to make it a bit more interesting, I suppose. So yeah, I just wondered what would happen if I did that. So yeah, let's see how that one turns out. The original white Aquacast and the black Aquacast are fully compatible. However, I did notice, I don't know if it's something that I did, that the bottom was very uneven, as you can see there. Something strange happened there. So it just needed sanding, which I did later on. But let's have a look at the finish that I got. So as you will see, we had some really interesting effects going on here. And I think it's while that really intense black pigment kept just migrating through the white and causing some really interesting effects, and I'm really happy with it, especially that top bit where you put the tea light. That looks really good. So here it is after it's been waxed, and I think it all shows up a lot better, especially that bit on the inside that I was talking about where you get a really interesting effect. I was really happy with that. So yeah, I think that one was quite an interesting experiment and it turned out well. So I just did a little bit of fun artwork with some more of the seashell veneer for the picture frame, and that looks nice in there, so I'm happy with that. So overall, yeah, 3 lovely projects. And the Aqua Cast Black definitely gets a thumbs up and a 10 out of 10 from me. Please see the links and discount codes in the video description for all the products I've used today, and I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching and bye for now.